Hey, I'm Frank Spiro. Let's talk basketball. The NBA season starts next Tuesday, December 22nd, which for those of you keeping track at home is soon. If you feel like you just watched the NBA Finals yesterday, I've got some comforting news for you. You're not alone. You see, we as humans experience time in a linear format, but thanks to advancements by people like Albert Einstein and the theory of relativity, we know that there are multiple ways to experience space-time. You see, first and it's the cosmologist's orbit that the clock is reimagining. See, if two people set their clocks at the exact same time, then one went thrown into is a vortex of dilation zones. I'm talking dilations from the right, dilations from the left, child to adult, child to adult. But when have we ever gone from adult to child? Benjamin Button. Benjamin Button. When making a joke, the most important thing is timing. The entropy of the world in the far past appears very low to us. But this might not reflect the exact state of the world. It might regard the subject of the world's variables with which we, as physical systems, have interacted. Time? It ain't nothing but a flat circle. Which is all to say, you're right. This was an extraordinarily short offseason. But that didn't stop teams from making a lot of moves the past few months. Let's catch you up and start in the East. The Boston Celtics offseason was marred by a number of moves they almost made. They lost Gordon Hayward in free agency to the Charlotte Hornets, who signed him to a 4-year, $120 million contract. That's reportedly even more than Hayward made in the 1920s, riding around on that bicycle with one large wheel. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia 76ers believe they've booked a trip to the NBA Finals this season by partaking in the dark magic ancient basketball ceremony of trading for Danny Green. Green has been to the finals the past 2 years, winning championships with the Raptors and then last year with the Lakers. He even won a championship before that as a member of the Spurs. Impressive. Danny Green's father says one more championship and he might even get to go by his adult name, Daniel Green. Other news in the East, Kevin Durant is back from his Achilles tear, which caused him to sit out all of last season. Kyrie Irving is also back after missing last season with Kevin Durant's Achilles tear as well. The Pistons have a whole new roster. Here's some footage of Pistons fans on opening day. Pistons fans had reason to be hopeful after the draft last month, drafting Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, and Saddiq Bey in the first round. After a confusing free agency, though, including signings of Mason Plumlee, Jahlil Okafor, and Jeremy Grant, Pistons fans are starting to feel a little more pissed on. The Hawks also made a big splash this offseason, drafting Onyeka Okongwu in the first round and then signing Danilo Gallinari, Chris Dunn, Rajon Rondo, and Bogdan Bogdanovic in free agency, which just goes to show you, if you don't have a plan going into free agency, just sign everyone. The Milwaukee Bucks traded for Drew Holiday in a trade that netted the Pelicans Eric Bledsoe, Steven Adams, and a handful of Milwaukee's most athletically fit middle schoolers. In a vacuum, this might seem like an overpay for Drew Holiday, but let me explain why this move was a prudent one for the Bucks, in form of a dramatic monologue. We don't live in a vacuum. Vacuums are precise, clean, easy. Real life? It's messy. It doesn't play around. Decisions we make have consequences. Yeah, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but be certain. Every domino falls. Clink, clink, clink. Every domino falls. In reality, the haul for Drew Holiday is a small price to pay if it gets Giannis Antetokounmpo to sign his extension. Does it come across a little needy? Sure, but actually neediness is a form of affection. And in some cultures, for someone to show neediness, that's like a pretty big deal, and it should be beloved and cherished. And if you're breaking up with someone just because they're needy, that actually reflects less on them and more on Marina. To some, the heart is a gift. To Marina, it is but a doormat. In the West, the rich got richer. The defending champion Lakers added Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, and Wesley Matthews to their already high-level team. Looking at the calendar, that means there's a real chance that LeBron James wins the title on the same day that Space Jam 2, starring LeBron James, comes out in theaters. That's like something that would happen in a movie about the most successful person in the world. Or like hitting a game-winning home run and then getting married as you round third. The Suns made a splash this offseason by signing Chris Paul. If you don't watch basketball, you probably know Chris Paul is the man who's being meticulously and violently stalked by Carlton Banks.
Yo, Dad, come play some ball. You're not my dad.
I'm not your dad. Of course I'm your dad's son. If I wasn't your dad, would I be able to do this?
What are you doing?
I'm doing this.
The move places Phoenix firmly in the playoff discussion, which is somewhere the Suns haven't been since Coach Steve Nash was player Steve Nash. On the flip side of the addition, Chris Paul is due $85 million over the next 2 seasons, which he's going to need every penny of if he's going to pay for his son's long and arduous journey through therapy. The Kings are also in the West. Moving on to the Houston Rockets. This is something I've always wanted to say. Houston, we have Houston, we have issues? Houston, we have issues. That's cool. After taking an unorthodox approach last season by playing extreme small ball, things have collapsed this offseason in Houston. Coach Mike D'Antoni, the only coach whose name sounds like a group of guy friends, and general manager Daryl Morey have both abandoned their posts, resigning from their positions. They've already started to move on from their star players as well. James Harden has requested a trade, and they've traded Russell Westbrook for John Wall, which is a little bit like trading your right shoe for your left shoe, in that no shoe is worth a max contract. To put it in rom-com terms, the organization's failure to launch has made the entire league clueless. Now the Rockets will be forced to hitch a ride to the playoffs, or the entire organization could find themselves sleepless in Seattle. To make matters worse, the players' pride seems to be butting up against owner Tillman Fertitta's prejudice. Reports have indicated that the mass exodus from the Rockets is due to Tillman Fertitta's fervent Trump support. You might remember this picture of James Harden from the bubble wearing a Blue Lives Matter mask. It turns out that Tillman Fertitta gave Harden the mask without telling him the connotation. Side note, referring to police officers as blue lives is a misnomer. People are not born police. There are only 4 blue lives. These 3 and Dr. Manhattan. In Memphis, local zoo named a baby giraffe after Rookie of the Year Ja Morant, affectionately calling the animal Ja-Raff. Apparently that's now the longest neck in Memphis since Hashim Thabit. Oh, whoa, I gotcha Thabit, zing. One team that decided to notably drop off this offseason is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who traded almost all of their high-impact players for 17 first-round draft picks over the next 7 years. Personally, I think this is a sound strategy. Planning for the future might be scary, but that's a big part of being in a committed relationship. And if that scares Marina, maybe she has to face her own fears. Just because the season hasn't started doesn't mean there's not basketball to catch up on. Let's see some preseason highlights. Orlando Magic and Atlanta Hawks getting preseason action started on Friday night. There's John Collins, probably thinking about the basketball game. Here's Bogdan Bogdanovic getting in the lane, hitting a fallback turnaround jumper. New face there in Atlanta. Markelle Fultz brings it up the floor, back to Nikola Vucevic. Vucci Main misses the three-pointer, but Aaron Gordon's there for the slam. Whew, and it would be all Aaron Gordon early. Here he is finishing through traffic in the lane for an and one. But the Hawks would respond in form of Cam Reddish. First with the mid-range jumper, then poking it out on the defensive end. Bruno Fernando so elegantly lays in. But Aaron Gordon would have answers, driving through the lane and slamming it home. He can still do that. Cam Reddish would respond with a deep three. Who knew Cam Reddish? Who knew? Trae Young through the legs of Nikola Vucevic to Clint Capella. Oof, over the river and under the crotch to a Clint Capella layup we go. You can see it in slow-mo here. Trae Young using every possible facial muscle to sell the fake. Then it's Red Velvet, Kevin Huerter, she wrote, solving the crime of the alley-oop by throwing it to John Collins for the slam. Late though, it was all Magic, led by rookie Cole Anthony, taking the deep three, nailing it in, and finally finishing things off with a great assist to Kem Birch for the mid-range jumper. Final score, Magic 116, Hawks 112. Aaron Gordon with 12 points and 6 assists in just 16 minutes of action. Moving on, Houston Rockets and Chicago Bulls tipping off on the brow of Benny the Bull. It was the newcomers early. First John Wall taking it hard to the hole, and then hooking up with fellow Kentucky connection DeMarcus Boogie Cousins. It's like the 2016 All-Star game in here. Then Boogie with the steal slams it home. Then it's Boogie Cousins reading for the role of bully. You'll be reading with Wendell Carter Jr. today. John Wall saying bye-bye with the blow-by against Kobe White. But the Bulls would score. Lauri Markkanen, the Finland finisher, finishes with the flourish. Then the Fjordsman flings a filthy three from far away. But it was really all Rockets in this one. Eric Gordon hitting the deep three. Then playing a little game of human pinball with the Bulls defenders, making his way to the rim. David Nwaba finishing the break here. Nope. John Wall with the tip-in. That's athleticism. And Houston native Gerald Green throwing it down with emphasis. Three-point bogey. No, this is not a replay. It just kept happening. Rockets running away with this one, but if you're a Bulls fan, you want to see how number 4 pick in the draft, Patrick Williams, is doing. Floater there, faking the three-pointer, coming in for a nice mid-range pull-up. Looking good. This game was not close. Final score, Houston Rockets 125, Chicago Bulls 104. Charlotte Hornets and Toronto Raptors starting off preseason action. Devontae Graham hitting the deep three over some Raptors defenders. Gordon Hayward gets into the lane, hits the turnaround jumper. Looking good in those new threads, the $120 million man driving to the hole, getting the layup in. Say hello to my little Fred. Van Vliet tie off the glass. Doing it again with a bank shot from 3. Fred Van Vliet getting it done on the defensive end too. Up to OG Anunoby around the back, finishing the break with a hard slam. Fred Van Vliet getting this layup to go to cap off a 35-17 second quarter for the Raptors over the Hornets. Gordon Hayward getting up there and slamming it down, looking healthy. That's a good sign. LaMelo Ball gets the rebound, number 3 overall pick in the draft, behind the back to Miles Bridges. Oh my gosh, let's look at that one again. LaMelo Ball doesn't even look at him, cooking up dimes for Miles Bridges to serve dessert, but he can give some entrees too. Miles Bridges throws it home, cocks it back, let's look at that one, and throws it down. One more angle on that. That's authority. LaMelo Ball showing off why he was the number 3 pick again, behind the back. Lets it off for Biyombo to slam it home. But it would be the Raptors in this one with Malachi Flynn, their first round pick, leaving it off to DeAndre Bembry, who would put it home for the lay-in. Final score, Toronto Raptors 111, Charlotte Hornets 100. Brooklyn Nets and Washington Wizards. There's Kevin Durant hiding behind Thomas Bryant pregame because he's shy. But he wouldn't be shy about scoring, driving to the rim and slamming it home. That's his first points ever as a Net. And then Kyrie Irving making his way through the lane, kissing it off the glass. That's pretty. First round draft pick, the Israeli, Deni Avdija with the 3 for the Wizards. And then Rui Hachimura battling for the offensive rebound and slamming it home. But Kevin Durant was doing Kevin Durant things. Nailing the mid-range jumper, then making his way into the paint, hitting the one-legged fadeaway. That's pretty. Clearly Durant and Irving already in sync. I've heard of synchronized swimmers, but synchronized winners? Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant hope so with the long pass and reverse lay-in there, but Deni Avdija would bring the Wizards back in this one. The Masad Mamba running in the lane, hitting the halftime buzzer beater, and bringing his team all the way back, capping off this 12-0 run. And then Rui Hachimura would do some work too, getting Durant on the pump fake, finishing the jumper for the and one, and then Avdija in the lane, hitting the floater. But in the end, it was all Nets. Tyler Johnson hitting the deep 3, and then Chris Chiozza with the dagger. Final score, Brooklyn 119, Wizards 114. Knicks Pistons playing a game you would never have any reason to watch. First round draft pick, Killian Hayes leaves it off to Blake Griffin, who hits home the 3. Then Griffin returns the favor, throwing it to Hayes in the corner, who splashes home the triple. Shout out to Derrick Rose, that spin move finish, nice. Julius Randle in the post leaves it off to Mitchell Robinson, who slams it home. Then D Rose to 2019 draft pick Sekou Doumbouya, who hits the 3 at the top of the key. It's a rookie fest. Killian Hayes driving to the rim off the glass, that one's good. And then Obi Toppin saying, "Oh, behave," as he hits the 3-pointer. Yeah, baby. And Saddiq Bey muscling his way into the paint, finishing at the rim. 2019 number 3 overall draft pick, RJ Barrett putting on a show in this one, so stick around if you can, RJ Barrett. With the lay-in off the Nerlens Noel assist, then flashing some passing ability to the corner for the Alec Burks 3, then rounding the corner and slamming it home. Unfortunately for the Knicks, it wouldn't be enough. Doumbouya with the steal off to Rose, back to Doumbouya, and then Killian Hayes getting in the lane, throwing it to newcomer Josh Jackson for the 3. Final score, Pistons 99, Knicks 91. RJ Barrett with 25 points in a losing effort. Now it's time for a classic sports show segment. I agree with you, and I cherish your opinion. Here to help me is my absolute tallest friend. Please welcome Brian Goodwin.
Thank you, Frank. It's an honor to be here.
So Brian, I hear you have some basketball opinions.
I do. People are saying this was an historically weak draft, but I think there are a couple players poised to make a big impact.
You know, Brian, I agree with you, and I cherish your opinion.
Okay.
Denny Avdia for the Wizards has already made a huge impact, and Tyrese Halliburton for the Kings is putting up some impressive preseason numbers.
Yeah.
Moving on, historically, the West has been much stronger than the East. But I think this year, 1 through 8 in the East might be just as good as 1 through 8 in the West.
Frank, I agree with you, and there's a warmth to you. It's just kind of radiating off of you. It's just an energy, an aura about you, and what you're saying I agree with, but how you're saying it really means a lot to me. Anyway, I think that Atlanta's gotten a lot better, and the Wizards could be at the top of the East next year.
I agree.
Moving on to the Clippers, they choked in the playoffs last year, but I don't think they did enough in the offseason to resolve their chemistry issues.
I agree, Brian. And speaking of chemistry, I feel like we've got something going on here. Your opinions, they take me high into the sky, like I'm soaring 100 miles per hour through clouds, winds, eventually to the stars.
Yeah, that's true.
I appreciate your opinions. I think they're wise, and that you too are a smart man with good work ethic.
Okay.
Moving on, I think a lot of people are focusing on the Pelicans' weaknesses instead of their strengths. Sure, they don't have a lot of spacing, but Zion Williamson and Steven Adams inside is going to be a team that no one wants to go against.
I agree. I like you forever, I'll love you for always, as long as I'm living my baby you'll be.
I agree, Brian. As the Japanese would put it, you are my ikigai, my reason to live, the soul that sets my being on fire.
I completely agree, and sometimes I think, what if we were in a Freaky Friday situation and I woke up in your bed as you and you woke up in my bed as me?
Together, we're just one big puddle that gets evaporated into the clouds and rains down upon all of our enemies.
I would jump out of the bed and I would scream, yippee, yippee, and I assume you would do the very same.
And I wish that for both of us. I wish that for both of us.
I assume I would walk down the street and say, I'm Frank, I'm Frank, I'm Frank now, and there wouldn't be a moment of existential peril or fraud. I'd just be happy to be you. What were we even talking about?
Basketball.
Right, basketball. Yeah, I mean, I think Jokic could be MVP.
No. That's not going to happen. Horrible opinion. Thank you guys so much for watching Let's Talk Basketball. We're going to start doing this every week with shows on Wednesday afternoons that'll catch you up on your NBA content. These are the people who help me with the show. Good people, get to know them. Please give us a like, not just on social media, but in your hearts. Though social media would be nice as well. I'm Frank Spiro. See you next week.